All right, let's do a quick garden tour. I have not been keeping up with my original schedule of trying to get a garden tour done every week, but this has been about 2 weeks. Today is May 21st, so it's been about 2 weeks since my last one. And I will try to get on more of a weekly schedule, but until then, let's just do a quick walk through what's happened in the last 2 weeks. So I got some flowers planted. This area, I don't think I've ever showed anybody, but I am going to plant some other things up here, just haven't decided what. Got some marigolds in my chicken pots. And that is one stray pepper plant that I had left over when I was planting peppers. I'll go up here on my deck. Got some flowers planted up here. Marigolds. Some petunias, some purple and white and pink petunias in my flower boxes up here. Once they start spreading out, they'll look really pretty. Some marigolds, some petunias. And don't pay attention to my deck. I've been scraping it. As soon as we get a couple of dry weeks, I'm gonna prime it and paint it. It's just been really wet lately. We'll take a quick look out back. Those are some blue junipers John is going to plant up on our hills over there. He's been cleaning that out and going to plant some more of those. We're hoping that they spread. We planted some 3 or 4 years ago and they're really getting big, and we'd like to cover that whole rock area. But over here I just had some extra totes from last year that I used, and they've got potato plants. They're doing pretty good. Got some potato plants coming in there. And I may go get some more seed potatoes and put some in there. We'll walk out back to our lasagna garden that we did 2 weeks ago and take a look at it. It's not doing too bad. Like I said, it's been 2 weeks and we had some starts of watermelon and cantaloupe that we put into the ground, and they're not really doing too hot. Then I planted seeds, a whole bunch of bean seeds. I've got Roma beans, regular green beans, kidney beans, and they all came up really well. And I do have some netting over it just to kind of keep the critters out of it, but I'll try to show you what we got going out here. This row here were watermelons. Like I said, they're doing okay. They're just not growing a lot. So I did put some watermelon seeds in there. And I've kind of overplanted this area because it's wide open, unlike my front garden that's fenced in. So if people or animals, critters get out here and nibble on some, we'll have plenty to share. But I do have some netting on. Beans around the perimeter. And I took my least lively tomato plants that I had started from seed and planted them out here because I really didn't have any space up front for them. So we'll see how they do. I did give them some fertilizer today. They're not doing great either, but give them a shot. I thought I'd at least plant them. And that's watermelon and beans also down that. So those 2 rows are watermelon and beans. Then I've got zucchini. I think this is gold zucchini. This is pumpkin. That's green zucchini. And we'll get down here a little closer and show you how the beans are doing. And the zucchinis. But they're basically all around the perimeter here. I've got the beans and the tomato plants. And then these 2 rows. Okay, so that's zucchini here. This row here is cantaloupe and beans. That row is cantaloupe and beans. And the cantaloupes that we planted that were starts, they weren't looking too great. So I did plant some cantaloupe seeds in there as well. And then this outside perimeter are the beans. So everything's popping up nice, and it's been fertilized and watered. And unfortunately out here we don't have water, but we got a system set up where we've got a water tank we can pull behind. I think it's 30 gallons behind our lawnmower, and we'll come out here and water whenever we need to with that. Then on each corner, I did plant some sunflower seeds, a mixture. So everything's popping up. Just have to keep an eye on it. See how my tomato plants do. Like I said, I'll show you one how scrawny they are. There's one right there. And there's one. Teeny weeny. I've got a handful that are decent size. They just don't look real healthy. They're kind of yellowish green, but I'm hoping the fertilizer helps them. And I'm not quite for sure what happened to these. I've probably got 20 or 30 out here of my seed starts that just didn't do real great. Now the ones up front look 1,000 times better than this, and we'll take a look at those. But so that's the lasagna garden. 2 weeks in the process. And then we've got this over here set up. John got me a wood chipper for Christmas, and we're going to be chipping up this wood, the branches and tree limbs that come from a tree up front where 2 great big huge limbs fell off from some storms that happened in the early spring. So we'll be using the wood chips for the chicken coop and walkways in our garden. So a couple of projects going on. Okay, so we're gonna mosey on back down to the front of the house, take a look at the front garden, see what's happened up there within the last 2 weeks. I think I've just about got everything planted. I've got a few more types of seeds that I want to plant, but we'll see. I've got so much going on with the plants right now, I might not have any more room for anything else, but you never know what'll hit me. Okay, we're gonna come in over here on our side entrance again and take a look-see of what we've got going on in the front yard garden. Alrighty, so there's the sage plant, and since we've last checked in, I've got one of my orange dwarf daylilies popping through. And I love those things, but the flowers just don't last very long. But the sage is doing well. I never did give it a good trim, but it has managed to flower and it's looking good. So let's go in. In those little pots there, I just planted some dwarf orange tomato plants and teaspoon tomato plants. I had the packets of seeds with me today and I got them wet. So I just threw them in there and hopefully they'll take off and I can transplant them at some point. But I did want to try them, but we'll see if they come through. And this is a few of my healthier tomato plants that I put in pots that were left over. I've got 6 pots around my fence and I'll use those as a trellising area for them. There's the other final 6 over there. And underneath the tree, I did plant chard and it is starting to come up. I put some more chard seeds over here on this side today, so we'll keep an eye on those and see if it comes up. And along a couple of these, 5 or 6 of these bricks, I planted Kajari melons and tiger melons, and looks like some of them are coming through, and we'll use the fence as a trellis for those. And my raspberry bush, strawberry plants, they're doing halfway decent, and I've planted 3 basil and basil. And the rest are strawberries, and this crazy blackberry bush is doing something. Got 2 really huge limbs coming off of it, but I think I am going to take some cuttings off that and try to propagate and give me several more blackberry bushes. Up here at the front, across the front of the house, I have some flower pots. I just threw some lettuce seeds in here. Pretty thickly. We'll see how those come up. I may have to thin them out, but I thought I'd give it a shot because it stays nice and cool up here, shade up on the porch, so maybe they'll survive and we'll get some lettuce. That one, the lettuce seeds aren't coming up too well. Let's see, handful in there. Got some marigolds here on the end I planted today. Tomatoes. I'll give you a shot from here. John built these nice 2-foot square tomato cages for me, and I've got a plant basically on each corner. We'll try to trellis them up that. and they're probably 4 foot tall, so I'm sure the plants, indeterminate ones, will get much taller than that, but I may top them off and not keep them from getting so big. That trellis, I did plant cucamelons back there, but nothing has germinated on that trellis or the one there on that end, so I was really anxious to try those as well. But I may have to get some more seeds and plant them somewhere else. So altogether up front, I have 94 tomato plants in these 2 raised beds around the perimeter over there, and I'll walk you over there. And I have intermixed some basil plants here and there that I started earlier in April. But see, you can tell these are a lot more healthy than the ones out back, but I was a little worried about them to begin with, because right after I planted them, we had Noah's flood here. So much rain for a week straight, and they were looking kind of bad themselves, but I did give them some fertilizer, and they're starting to look a little more green. That's potatoes. Again, I think they're about 2-3 feet wide and 30 feet long. That corner over there has potatoes in it. Let's take a look at these tomato plants, and I've got them just mixed up. My Martino's Roma, Sart Reloy, Woods Brimmer, Gold Medal, Great White, Dad Sunset, and Orange Icicle. And that is Grapevine. And I think this year, when the season's over and they go dormant, this and the raspberry and blackberry plants, I'm going to dig them up and put them somewhere else. I've got some opal basil and cinnamon basil mixed in there. I'm gonna swing around over here to the left. Potato plants are rocking it. And my sweet mint is really filling in. I've already cut several cuts off that and give to the chickens for snacks. More potato plants back there. And the rose bushes. Potato plants. That's my Greek oregano, potato plants, and as you can tell, they've grown quite a bit since the last video we did 2 weeks ago. And I did do a handful of marigolds down the front of that bed today. And I'll just do a look-see down that way. And I got my hummingbird feeder and bird feeder out here today. And I actually had my first hummingbird of the season show up yesterday. So, again, strawberry plants, and they're starting to look a little better too. Not quite as full and luscious as I'd like them to be, but they are picking it up. I gave them some fertilizer as well. The strawberry. I planted some of my coleus down here in this, and my little friendly chipmunk keeps getting in there and digging and planting his walnuts, so I put some netting over it. And that was a handful of zinnias I had left over. And again, my hollyhocks are, I'm just dying for those flowers to come through. They're really starting to fill in. It's gonna be pretty. And I'm pretty sure they're black, like I've said before in other videos. We'll see. That's what they turn out to be. Over here, strawberries as well, but this bed didn't survive the strawberries I planted, so I took, you'll see a video of a couple of tomato plants I broke off that I propagated, and I've actually put the propagated pieces of the tomato plants in, 2 in there and 1 in here, because I had extra space. Those potatoes, not quite as big as the ones in the ground over there, but they're still looking pretty good. That's a potato plant. A couple more marigolds. Some of my zinnia plants that I planted on the outside of my bed here are actually starting to flower. And all the rain as well, I think, kind of affected them a little bit, but they're starting to green up a little bit. Several starting to pop through. Let's come over here on the right side of my raised beds. I have never planted anything in that area yet. I've tried several things in there before in the past, and it just doesn't grow anything, so we'll see. These down here are the marigolds that I actually started from seed. And they're, oh, I got a little flower coming on along. I planted them down the outside of that raised bed. So they're looking pretty good. Potato patch. And then along here in the straw area are my second level of tomatoes. They're not as good as my great tomatoes in the beds, and they're not as bad as the ones outside or out back in the garden. I did manage to get them all marked with markers today of what plants they are. And out of the 95 I had up here, I think 4 or 5 I don't actually know what they are, so I don't know what happened to my marking system, but start to get a little bigger. We go down this way, and all along that, I'm gonna have to figure out how I plan to trellis these. May just stake them up. And then in this area in front of the tomatoes, I planted some seeds today of black-eyed Susans and Shasta daisies, so we'll see if they come up. We're over here in this area. And on the corner over here, I tried planting, or I did plant some ground cherries. We'll see if they come through. So these are very weak pepper plants. On this end, I did get them in. They're still looking kind of puny. Another tomato plant, and there's some basil plants back there. And pepper plants, and as we go closer to the front of the house, the pepper plants get bigger and greener. So these will probably survive and do decent, I hope. But as go down that way, those are my weaker ones from my seed starts, and we'll give them the opportunity, and I did fertilize them, so hopefully they'll pull through. And that's the other corner where I planted some ground cherries. So I will come over here and try to give you a panorama shot of what this area looks like from here. So potatoes, you go around, marigolds and tomato plants, tomato, and then my peppers over there. And I think that might be it. Again, that's the other trellis that I planted some cucamelons in. I'm not seeing anything germinating, so might have to get me some more of those. So I think that's about it for the quick garden tour this week. I did want to get something on video and capture quite a few flowers coming in there. I'd like to get some blackberries this year. I just can't get over those great big huge shoots. Alright, folks. Thanks for joining on the quick. I think I might have heard a hummingbird. I put another feeder up there. I need to get a flower pot to go on the other side or something. Okay, well, thanks for joining. And hopefully I'll get back on schedule and maybe start doing one every week. So I'd like to get back on schedule, like I've said several times, and do one weekly, but I work full-time still and don't always have time to keep up with work full-time and gardening and doing videos, but it is fun. So something else I did in the front garden too, I dispersed or kind of scattered sunflower seeds in corners here and there, so we'll see what pops up. I think I put some around the peppers, put a few in the raised beds and a few in the strawberry beds, so might see some sunflowers come up there as well. So I think that might be it, guys. Hope you check in next week, and hopefully I'll get one done next week. But I appreciate you joining, and we will talk to you on the next video. Love you. Bye.